The air we breathe is not merely a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen. It is saturated with an invisible, yet profoundly powerful pollutant, negative energy. This is not a mystical concept. It is the measurable, destructive force generated by human anxiety, pessimism, complaint, and defeatist thought. Most people walk through life utterly defenseless against this constant, corrosive presence, allowing the moods and attitudes of others to contaminate their own internal operating system. I stand before you today to draw a line in the sand. If you are serious about constructing a life of exceptional achievement and genuine fulfillment, a life of true wisdom, you must recognize that avoiding negative energy is not a luxury. It is a fundamental act of discipline and self-preservation. The wise must master the art of energetic defense, for sustained success is impossible when your mental landscape is perpetually poisoned. Consider the most critical asset you possess: focused mental energy. This is the finite resource you use to innovate, to solve complex problems, to maintain discipline, and to attract opportunity. Every moment you spend engaging with negativity, listening to a protracted complaint, debating a chronic pessimist, or dwelling on news that diminishes your hope is a massive expenditure of this precious energy, yielding zero return. You are essentially pouring your most valuable resource into a sieve. The ambitious and the successful understand that their environment is their destiny. If you surround yourself with the cynical, the doubtful, and the resentful, you are choosing to walk uphill against a gale-force wind every single day. Their low vibrational state acts like a gravitational pull, inevitably dragging down the altitude of your own aspirations. The first principle of defense is recognition. Negative energy rarely announces itself with a warning bell. It often comes disguised as realistic critique, candid honesty, or simply venting. Learn to identify the subtle signals: the constant shift of responsibility away from the self, the fixed focus on past mistakes, the chronic inability to find a solution, and the infectious tone of victimhood. The moment you detect these signals, your internal alarm must sound. You are not obligated to participate in another person's prolonged psychological drama. Your primary obligation is to the integrity of your own state of mind. The greatest source of external negative energy comes from the chronic complainer. This individual treats conversation not as an exchange of ideas or information, but as a public drainage system for their psychological residue. They are masters of the problem, but utterly incompetent at finding solutions. They mistake shared misery for genuine connection. The wise person approaches the chronic complainer with surgical detachment. You listen long enough to understand the core problem, the actionable data point, and then you immediately pivot the conversation to solution, responsibility, or closure. If the person refuses to pivot, if they insist on circling back to the feeling of the problem without addressing the mechanics of the fix, you must disengage. Your commitment to wisdom requires you to refuse to be the auditorium for their self-pity. You must say, perhaps silently, "I respect you, but I refuse to allow your unresolved anxieties to occupy my creative space." This is not cruelty, it is boundaries. Boundaries are the firewall of the successful mind. The second critical source of pollution is the perpetual pessimist. This person sees opportunity and immediately points out the 10 reasons it will fail. They view enthusiasm as naivety and ambition as hubris. Their internal world is governed by fear, and their external projection is a constant prediction of doom. Why do they pose such a danger? Because the act of great achievement, the launching of a business, the creation of a great work, requires a sustained, almost irrational belief in possibility. The perpetual pessimist attacks that belief at its core. Their constant warnings introduce doubt, and doubt is the silent killer of action. The way to neutralize the pessimist is not through debate, but through action and documented results. You do not argue their point. You simply proceed with your plan, understanding that their perspective is a reflection of their own limitations, not the boundaries of your potential. You maintain a polite but resolute distance from their worldview, recognizing that their reality is toxic to your progress. Your time, your energy, and your attention are the trifecta of your destiny. To achieve greatness, you must become a ruthless steward of these resources. You must recognize that every person in your life is either an energetic contributor or an energetic detractor. The contributor lifts you, challenges you constructively, and expands your perspective. The detractor drains you, anchors you to mediocrity, and reinforces your fears. The wisest decision you can make today is to conduct a severe and honest audit of your inner circle. Are the 5 people you spend the most time with amplifying your best qualities or validating your worst fears? If you find yourself consistently exhausted, drained, or cynical after interacting with a certain individual, you are receiving a clear, powerful signal that the relationship is fiscally bankrupt in terms of energy. The wise person does not merely endure bad company, they strategically and respectfully exit it. The act of protecting your mental energy from negative influence requires not just avoidance, but the disciplined practice of transmutation. You must learn how to encounter low-frequency energy and, instead of absorbing it, transform it into a force that reinforces your own positive trajectory. The Firewall of Perspective. The single most effective tool for transmutation is the Firewall of Perspective. This is the mental discipline that dictates you must never interpret the actions or words of a negative person as being about you. When a chronic cynic attacks your idea, they are not criticizing your potential. They are voicing their own internalized fear of risk and failure. When a victim mentality attempts to drag you into their drama, they are not seeking a solution. They are seeking a justification for their inertia. By seeing their negativity as a projection of their internal state, and not a reflection of your reality, you immediately disarm its power. You shift from feeling hurt or defensive to feeling analytically detached. This detachment is crucial, as it allows the negative energy to pass through your sphere without sticking to your consciousness. The moment you take their pessimism personally, you have allowed them to breach your firewall and contaminate your focus. The wise person maintains the highest level of emotional non-attachment to the inevitable negativity of the world. The transmutation process. The highest form of energetic discipline is to actively transmute the negative input into positive fuel. When you receive sharp criticism, even if it is laced with malice or envy, your duty is to extract the kernel of truth, the singular, actionable data point, and discard the rest. Filter, listen carefully only for the factual error or the genuine flaw in your plan. Extract, isolate that single data point. They said my timing was off. Transmute, use that data point not as a reason to despair, but as a precise instruction for iteration. My timing is off. I must now spend 2 hours researching market cycles. The negative input, which was intended to stop you, is now utilized as a precise accelerator for your next move. This is the alchemy of success, using the lead of criticism to forge the gold of superior performance. You do not argue with your critics. You simply use their unwanted attention to refine your product and sharpen your focus. The accountability exchange. Finally, recognize that the avoidance of negative energy includes maintaining strict accountability in your own life. One of the greatest dangers is becoming a source of negativity yourself, a hypocritical critic who drains the energy of those around them. The moment you catch yourself engaging in protracted complaint, shifting blame, or dwelling on circumstances you cannot change, you must enforce a personal, energetic correction. Shift immediately from, "This problem is unfair," to "What is the single action I can take right now to move forward?" The wise person understands that the most powerful defense against external negativity is the cultivation of internal positivity, which is not a superficial cheerfulness, but an unwavering commitment to constructive action. You become immune to the infection of despair when you are perpetually focused on building, solving, and contributing. Your internal momentum creates a field of energy so strong that external negativity cannot penetrate it. Your commitment to wisdom requires you to be a generator of positive, constructive energy, allowing your focus on solutions to overpower the chaos of external complaints. How will you transmute the next piece of negative feedback you receive into an actionable instruction for improvement? The wise individual understands that negative energy is not static. It is viral and seeks replication. If you do not actively defend your mental space, you will become an unwitting host for the very negativity you seek to avoid. This requires a mastery of emotional hygiene and strategic social pruning. The virus of contagion. Negative energy operates on the principle of emotional contagion. Studies in social psychology show that emotions, particularly highly negative ones like anxiety and hopelessness, are transferred between individuals more quickly than information. When you spend time with a person entrenched in despair, their neurological state begins to subtly synchronize with yours. Your cortisol levels rise, your problem-solving capacity drops, and your focus on opportunity dims. You are quite literally being infected by their low-grade fear. The discipline required here is to treat your mental state with the same rigorous standard you would apply to your physical health. You would not knowingly invite a physical virus into your home. You must not knowingly invite an emotional virus into your mind. This is not about being cold. It is about being psychologically sovereign. The necessity of social pruning. To maintain this sovereignty, you must commit to strategic social pruning. This is the difficult but necessary process of reevaluating and potentially limiting access to people who consistently diminish your energy and progress. The energy audit. Identify the individuals in your life who, after interaction, consistently leave you feeling drained, pessimistic, or defensive. The tiered response. You do not need to cut off everyone. For professional or family obligations, you implement time and topic control. You strictly limit the duration of the interaction, time, and you immediately steer the dialogue away from grievance and toward action or neutral subjects, topic. You become a poor participant in their negative narrative. The respectful exit. For those who are chronic, unyielding sources of toxicity and have no unavoidable obligation, the wisest action is the respectful exit. This is not a confrontation, but a slow, gradual, and firm reduction in availability. You are prioritizing the eternal well-being of your mission over the temporary discomfort of a difficult conversation. The wise recognize that your time is your life's currency, and you cannot afford to spend it on relationships that offer a negative return on investment. The cost of a toxic relationship is not just the hour you spend with them, it is the 3 hours you spend afterward fighting to reclaim your positive, focused state. The inner sanctuary. Finally, the greatest defense against external negativity is the cultivation of an unshakable inner sanctuary. This is the mental space, achieved through practices like solitude and reflection, as we have discussed in other lessons, where your identity is self-assigned and impervious to external opinion. When your self-worth is rooted internally, the no of the pessimist, the complaint of the victim, and the doubt of the critic lose their power. They become like wind hitting a mountain, unpleasant perhaps, but incapable of moving the foundation. The man who possesses this inner fortress understands that the wise avoidance of negative energy begins and ends with the unwavering discipline of self-mastery. Will you conduct a social pruning audit this week, identifying one relationship where you need to implement stricter time and topic control? The final, highest level wisdom regarding negative energy is that it is a test of your personal vibration. The wise individual recognizes that the only lasting way to avoid negativity is to maintain an internal state so powerfully positive and constructive that lower frequencies cannot resonate with it. The law of vibration. Every thought you hold, every commitment you make, and every action you take emits a specific energetic frequency or vibration. Negative energy, complaint, cynicism, fear, operates on a low, dense frequency. High-level success, innovation, and genuine fulfillment operate on a high light frequency, that of focus, gratitude, and purposeful action. The law of vibration dictates that like attracts like. If you maintain a low internal frequency, you will perpetually attract, engage with, and amplify low-frequency people and situations. If you are internally messy and chaotic, you will find yourself in chaotic, draining environments. The problem is not entirely external. It is often a reflection of your own unaddressed inner clutter. Therefore, the most profound step in avoiding negative energy is the discipline of internal maintenance. You must dedicate time daily to practices that elevate your baseline emotional and mental state: gratitude journaling, physical exercise, deep focused work, and meditation. These are not merely self-care tactics, they are energetic maintenance protocols. When you maintain this high internal vibration, you become energetically incompatible with the pervasive negativity of the world. Chronic complainers will find your presence unnerving and difficult to engage with, as you refuse to meet them at their low frequency. Their negativity simply slides off your field of focus. The immunity of gratitude. The single most powerful energetic shield you can deploy is gratitude. Negativity is fundamentally rooted in a perception of lack, a focus on what is missing, what has gone wrong, or what others possess. Gratitude is the direct antithesis. It is an acknowledgement of abundance and progress. By maintaining a strict, daily inventory of gratitude, you force your mind to focus on assets rather than deficits, on solutions rather than problems. This deliberate shift in focus raises your internal vibration instantly, creating an immunity to the contagion of complaint. You cannot simultaneously feel genuine gratitude and destructive cynicism. The final command. The wise individual understands that they cannot control the external world, the news cycle, the actions of strangers, or the moods of colleagues. They can, however, control their internal world, which is the only true source of power. Your final command, then, is this: be ruthlessly disciplined about the quality of your own mind. Treat your internal state as your most valuable asset, protecting it from intrusion, nourishing it with focus, and defending it with high-frequency habits. The ultimate avoidance of negative energy is achieved when you become such a brilliant source of light and purpose that the darkness simply cannot exist in your orbit. You must now commit to incorporating one daily habit, such as gratitude or meditation, that will actively raise your baseline energetic vibration, thereby making you immune to the forces of negativity. The final, ultimate manifestation of the wisdom derived from avoiding negative energy is energy sovereignty. This is the state where you are the undisputed ruler of your own emotional and mental capital, and you operate entirely on self-generated momentum. The independence of momentum. Most people depend on external factors for their motivation and mood: a supportive compliment, a favorable market report, or an encouraging conversation. When those external hits of positive reinforcement are withheld, their energy plummets. They are energetically dependent. The wise person, through the disciplined avoidance and transmutation of negativity, achieves independence. Their energy is generated internally through their clear purpose, their consistent habits, and their gratitude practices. They become an engine, not a caboose. Their momentum is self-sustaining, allowing them to proceed through skepticism and criticism without slowing down. This self-generated momentum is the most powerful force in achievement. It means that the noise of the external world, the naysayers, the economic headlines, the petty grievances, becomes irrelevant. They can no longer dictate your pace or pollute your focus. This is the true meaning of sovereignty. Your success is no longer a conditional response to a benevolent environment. It is the unavoidable outcome of your internal discipline. The magnetic effect of clarity. When you achieve energy sovereignty, you also unlock a powerful magnetic effect. People are drawn to genuine, unforced clarity and stability. When you are not contributing to the world's cynicism, when you refuse to participate in gossip, and when you are consistently focused on solutions, you become a rare commodity. High-quality individuals, those who are also focused on building, innovating, and succeeding, naturally gravitate toward your energy. They seek refuge from the pervasive negativity elsewhere. Thus, the avoidance of negative energy paradoxically leads to the attraction of high-level, positive collaboration. You do not chase good company, you radiate the frequency that attracts it. Your refusal to engage in low-level drama becomes a filter for all your relationships. Only those committed to similar levels of purpose and constructive thought can remain in your orbit. This self-selection is the final reward of the wise avoidance of negativity. The final commitment. The journey to wisdom is the continuous choice to prioritize the quality of your internal experience over the comfort of conforming to external, low-frequency demands. You have the tools: recognition, transmutation, social pruning, and gratitude. Use these tools to fortify your mind, defend your momentum, and protect your purpose. For the measure of a truly successful life is not the absence of external challenge, but the unshakable resilience and clarity you maintain while facing it. Will you commit to viewing your internal mental state as a non-renewable resource that must be fiercely protected from all negative external intrusion?